Welcome to Music with Mrs. Avery. Hello, students. Last week I introduced you to the North Carolina Symphony, and we looked closely at the string family. Remember, all of the instruments in the string family produce sound the same way, by the vibration of strings. I'd like to classify those string instruments in our orchestra tree map. And we are going to list them from highest pitched to lowest pitched. So if you remember which string instrument was the highest pitched instrument, yell it out at me. Great job. You remembered that the violin was the shortest string instrument, therefore it played the highest. Excellent. Now, which instrument was just slightly larger than the violin? Still played the same way as the violin, sits under the musician's chin. Do you remember the name of that instrument? The viola. That's correct. So the viola looks an awful lot like the violin. It is just slightly larger in size. Therefore, it will play slightly lower pitched. How about the next string instrument? Now, this one is much bigger. It has to sit on the floor in order for the musician to play it. Do you remember which string instrument that is? The cello. That's right. And there was one more string instrument, and this string instrument was over 6 feet tall, and the musician had to stand tall or sit on a high stool to even play it. Do you remember what the name of that instrument was? The double bass. Correct. Excellent. So, our string instruments are as follows: the violin, viola, cello, and double bass. Now, we are going to look at the next family in the orchestra, the woodwinds. Let's look at the woodwind family together. The woodwind family is one of the larger families of the orchestra. So today we are going to look at just half of the family, and then next time we will look at the other half of the family. Woodwind instruments produce sound by blowing in or across a mouthpiece. And we're going to look at the different mouthpieces of each of the instruments. So let's get started and let's look at the shortest woodwind instrument. The piccolo. The piccolo is very similar to the flute, except it is about half of the size. You will see here is the mouthpiece. So the mouthpiece on a piccolo and a flute, when we get to that one next, has this little piece here where the musician's bottom lip sits right here, and the musician blows across this little hole right here. So when the musician blows across the hole, the sound waves travel down the tubing of the instrument and out and travel to your ears. Now the musician may also press down different patterns of these keys and buttons here in order to change the pitch. Let's listen to the piccolo. you can hear how high-pitched it is. So next, we are going to look at the flute. So the flute is almost exactly like the piccolo, except it is about double the length. So you will see it has the same mouthpiece, and the musician will blow across that little hole, and the sound travels down through the tube and out the other end. And you can see the keys and buttons they have to change the pitch. The flute is approximately 2 feet long, so 2 rulers long. And let's listen to the flute. You will hear that it is slightly lower than the piccolo. I love the flute. Next, we are going to look at the oboe. The oboe may be a new instrument for you. You may have never heard of the oboe before. Maybe you have. But the oboe is a neat instrument because of its mouthpiece here. This is called a double reed. So the rest of our woodwind instruments use reeds as a part of their mouthpiece. So we have single reed instruments, and a reed is a very thin, hand-carved piece of wood. Single reeds attach to a plastic mouthpiece, and they're clamped down. And when the musician puts their mouth around the mouthpiece, they blow through the mouthpiece. That reed vibrates, and then the sound travels down the tubing of the instrument. So this was a single reed, and a double reed is just 2 pieces of that hand-carved wood. And these 2 pieces are glued together on the edges, and they kind of create the effect of like a straw. And so that becomes the mouthpiece. You actually stick this part where the cork is on top of the double reed instrument, and you put your mouth around the double reed and you blow just like you would blow through a straw. And the reeds vibrate and the sound is sent through the tubing of the instrument. So if we look at the oboe, the musician would blow through the double reed here, and the sound would travel all the way down and out this end. And this end is called the bell. And you also see that they have different keys and holes to cover in order to change the pitch. Let's listen to the oboe. So the double reeds kind of add a honking-ish sound to the timbre of the instrument. we have one more woodwind instrument we are going to look at today. It is similar to the oboe. It is just slightly larger, therefore it will play a little bit lower. And this instrument is called the English horn. So here is the English horn. It is also a double reed instrument, just like the oboe. You will notice the body of the English horn looks very similar to the oboe. It's made of wood and it has all those little keys and holes to cover and push in order to change the pitch, but you will notice that the bell is rounded. Okay, so it has a slightly different bell and it is slightly longer in length. Let's listen to the English horn. So we can hear that the English horn plays lower than the oboe, but did you hear how thick the sound was? The oboe sound was much thinner, and the English horn sound is much thicker. So today, we looked at the piccolo, which is the shortest woodwind instrument, therefore it plays the highest pitched. We looked at the flute and the oboe and English horn. Next time, we are going to look at the clarinet, bass clarinet, and the bassoon. Now let's go over your assignment for today's lesson. Go into our Music Google Classroom and find the assignment North Carolina Symphony Woodwinds Part 1. And you can find that assignment under Classwork. Once you select the assignment, you may have to click View Assignment, which is at the bottom, and the entire assignment will open up like this. Please make sure that you read all of the directions. I have included some hints in the directions as well. And after you have viewed the video lesson for today, you are going to classify the 4 new instruments that you learned about in the video on this attached Google slide. So you will click in to the Google slide and your screen will look like this. Now, if you are using an iPad, you may have to click a little square button with a little arrow coming out of it. It's located in the top right-hand corner. You may have to click that button in order to get into the slide to edit, but then you will see this same screen, and you are going to then classify those 4 instruments, and you are going to type them into the text box that is provided. So you will double click into the text box right where it says type here. You will type in the name of your instrument. Remember, it's the highest pitched woodwind instrument. You will click enter, and then it will add the next bullet for you. And this is a great way to keep those instruments organized. Now remember, I'd like you to classify them from highest pitched to lowest pitched. Once you finish typing, you don't have to worry about anything else because Google Slides will automatically save your work. Once you have completed classifying the instruments, you will go back to the assignment and you will select Turn In.